don't know about you, but the thought of dozens of employees across a district with social media accounts, setting those social media accounts to represent your district, it can be pretty overwhelming. We only have 4 schools in our school district, but I've talked to people who have dozens, if not 100 or more schools in their districts. And the fact is that with so many moving parts, that's where our second P, procedures, really comes into play. So as we got started in our district, there were a lot of questions bouncing around in my head. How would I know what accounts were being set up? Who would be responsible for those accounts? How would other people, parents and community members, find those accounts? How would our teachers and employees know how to monitor and how to respond to difficult and sometimes challenging posts or comments? All of these questions were moving so fast that that's when we needed procedures to come into place to manage the risk. What we learned was that most of the questions that were bouncing around in my mind could be managed through a very simple online reporting form. We have a form on our website that we call an information sharing form, and this is something that teachers fill out or any employee fills out before or as they're setting up a new social media account that will represent some part of our district. We ask them for such simple information as what the name of their site is, who it's representing. We ask for a URL so that we can keep track of where these sites are located. And we ask them to think through such things as who is your audience? What kind of content are you going to be posting? These kinds of questions not only help us keep track of what exists out there on social media that represents our district, but it also helps prompt our employees through a few strategic questions so that they have a real plan in place as they set up a new account. So how do we encourage people to fill out the form? Well, most importantly, we use a carrot, not a stick. Again, we want the embrace of social media to be welcoming to the people in our district. We use something called a social media directory on our district website, which is a place that inventories and lists all of the accounts that we know of across our district. It's a great place for parents and community members to find ways to connect with us online. And oftentimes, we hear from people, why isn't my social media account listed on the directory? Well, that social media information sharing form that I mentioned, that is the key that is used to be placed in that directory. It's a great incentive. So I mentioned before the questions that were bouncing around in my mind, and there are a couple that we manage with other procedures. First, confidentiality. So we all have, in districts, we have procedures that are related to FERPA, and those are consenting procedures that allow us to share or not share certain information about our students. Social media absolutely fits into your FERPA policy. It is just the same as a newsletter or website. It just needs to be tailored to social media. The second question that was bumping around in my head was how will we make sure that people know how to respond when there are difficult comments or posts on their social media accounts? We have a great procedure that was put in place. It's a flow chart that you can see in the deeper dive. And this flow chart explains if you see a post or are uncomfortable with something you see, how to proceed and how to respond in a way that is appropriate, that is constructive, and respectful of both the district and the person making the post. These are procedures that make a huge difference in managing all of the moving pieces and ultimately controlling the chaos.